make a lot of sense to me to split things in that many directions. People who would come to see me wouldn't go to see the Rolling Stones at that time, and vice versa. But they were very much a novelty in Australia, that tour. But we did a television show for an oil company, and
it was called
the one with the shell.
The Big Beat 65.
Yeah, It was probably awful, but there we were. They were singing. Well, their first record was a hit in the South, in America. It's All Over Now.
Yeah.
By a black group. I forgot.
Valentino's.
Yeah. And I'd already heard that, and it was really good, and it really cooked. I just loved it. Then when I heard the Stones do it, they didn't do anything for me because I'd heard it already. Right. I'd heard it the right way. But they were trying to express themselves in terms of rock and roll. And so, in the long run, it helped everybody all the way around. The big tours did.
Well, it broke different markets for both.
Yeah, right. It split the whole thing up in balance. So the end result was good, but at first the pairing of that type of thing didn't seem.
I believe that on the Yardbirds tour, you were able to illuminate Jimmy Page on some guitar matters.
Oh yeah. I had some. I was in Houston once, and they had some original Fender Telecaster electronics. And so I said, I'll buy all of them. So I bought them all. There were about 4 or 5 sets. So I told Jimmy that I had some brand new equipment that he could have, for the whole wiring system for his guitar. And I left it at a hotel in London for him when I was after that tour. But he was brilliant at the time.
Well, you noticed that.
Yeah, I could tell. He just stood out miles ahead of everybody.
Because he'd been playing sessions for Brenda Lee back in 1961.
Yeah.
So the last big American hit was Pretty Woman, which I think it's 7 million copies worldwide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And after that, most of your emphasis swung to England and Australia. I think my figures are that you had 28 top 40 hits in Australia, as opposed to 22 in America. And I think the English tally was up around the Australian one. Your emphasis again switched, like I said, to these countries, and you toured them a great deal more. But the film you made, The Fastest Guitar Alive, that was when you'd left Monument and gone to MGM. Can you just briefly mention how you came to do a film?
Well, we had a 7-picture contract. I was going to make 7 motion pictures for MGM. And they were getting into financial trouble at the time. I didn't know it. But they weren't doing well. What they had done was they had remade so many movies, from Something to Mutiny on the Bounty. That's all they were doing, was just remaking old films. Yeah. And they were losing tons on them.
Making an Elvis film occasionally.
Yeah, and making an Elvis film, which became more expensive as Elvis raised his price. And so I made this first movie, and it was intended to be a serious film. and
it didn't come out like that.
No, it didn't. And what happened, before I got to Hollywood, Cat Ballou had won the Academy Award in April. So they figured they would follow suit, and have a funny Western. It's got to make a little money, they figured. But they figured wrong. I mean, it made money, made a lot of money, but not for me altogether.
And then your film career sort of ground to a natural halt.
Yeah, it sure did.
One thing, on the later release prints of Antonioni's Zabriskie Point, you sing the song So Young over the closing credits. It's not on the early prints, but it's on the later prints.
They wanted a song written for the movie, so it could be an Academy Award proposition. And me and Mike Curb and another fellow got together and we wrote this song and recorded it, and it was for the film. I saw the film before I wrote the song. So then they were to just let it come in at the end of the film. And I got to England, and I was, people wanted to know what was going on. I said, well, I've done this song for Zabriskie Point. Everybody went down to see the film and came back and said, well, you're not singing in that film. I couldn't believe it. And so I called, and they said, well, we missed the first 3 or 4, whatever it was, prints of the film. I said, well, it didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I saw it at the cinema without it, and then when it was on TV recently,
with it,
it's there.
Yeah.
And during the late 60s, the later 60s, your songs such as Communication Breakdown and There Won't Be Any More Coming Home started to take on a little bit of, not so much political consciousness, but they weren't just frivolous love songs. They were actually making a point. Were you as a writer consciously trying to do that point?
No, I think probably it was the influence of my co-writer. He was...
Which one was that?
Bill Dees. Yeah, he was probably trying to be more expressive or broaden his creative input. No, it was just frustrating to record for a company that didn't know you were recording for them, so to speak. Although the first 2 or 3 records were hits,
That was MGM.
With MGM.
Yeah, it was not exactly sort of a highlight of your career.
No, they were pretty good songs. Well, good songs, but not done all that well. But anyway, they didn't do anybody any good for a while there. Even in fact, by 1970, it was a buy and sell proposition. They eventually sold everything from MGM.
Although in 1969 you had the biggest hit in Australia your entire career, monstrous hit with Penny Arcade, which was number 1 for 20 weeks or something on the top 5. Yeah. Huge. That must have been a buzz for you when sort of the rest of the world wasn't going that well for you. And in Australia you had this monstrous hit.
It was terrific because I didn't even know it. When I came to Australia, I didn't know it. I stepped off the plane and I'd had the number 1 record. It went back to number 1, and it was in the British and Scandinavian charts for about 16 weeks.
Okay, so here we are now in the 70s. The Laminar Flow album, a couple of years ago, a one-off, and you're not recording for Electra Asylum anymore.
No.
But I imagine with the current success of that beautiful duet with Emmylou Harris from the Roadie film, that you must be inundated with offers at the moment.
Yeah, there are a lot of people interested in me recording for them, and as soon as I get the chance, I'll tie up with one of them and try to get something before the end of the year. Although that may be now a little.
It's getting a bit
close.
Yeah, and of course we have the movie coming up with Martin Sheen portraying you. I always think of Martin Sheen as playing John Dean in TV. I can't imagine he's playing you.
Well, he's a terrific character actor on television roles, but the sensitivity with which he handles some of the roles that he's done is unbelievable. So that's what I liked about him.
Your cameo on the Roadie film, it's very much like, say, Ray Charles' cameo on the Blues Brothers film and Aretha's. That must have been fun.
It was fun. Yeah, that's about what it amounted to, was just get all the big names that you can get. But it was a natural for that, being a roadie, a musician's roadie, and loading up the equipment and everything.
Right, I'd like to thank you very much for talking to me. I realise that you've had a long day of interviews. I know this has been somewhat of an ordeal, but I've certainly appreciated it. I'd just like to close by just mentioning something. On the Laminar Flow album, you did Hound Dog Man, the Lenny LeBlanc song, and it was your tribute to your friend Elvis.
Right.
But there was a line in it where you sang, "You gave the world a whole lot of joy, now that ain't bad for a country boy." Yeah. You might have sung that about Elvis, but I think it applies to you equally as well. I think after what is now 25 years of recording, you've given an enormous amount of joy, and I for one, am grateful for it.
Well, thank you.